global signal for it. That's a signal in the right direction, but for example, the US needs to have a carbon price as well as Europe and some other places in order to make some progress on this. We need 20 agreements the size of the Kyoto Accord to stabilize greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. We're having a hard time getting that first one fully implemented. I think, yeah.
Okay. Is there something to the cause and effect of price and innovation? Because
Oh, yeah.
well, okay. I mean, I know it's very obvious, and I think a lot of capitalist minded folks believe that as the price goes up, there will be innovation, but it's a lag. It's always lagging. Is there a and I think it would probably make more sense to be a leader, you know, as far as innovation versus price, to keep price down.
I was on
rather,
the National Academy of Sciences panel for limiting how we limit carbon emissions, and our first recommendation is the U.S. should be a leader in this. You know, it should try to innovate to get these costs down, to get people in the rest of the world to do things, and we thought there were some big technological alternatives that could be implemented to reduce greenhouse gas intensity. If you go to more natural gas in various forms, per BTU, it has a lot lower carbon emissions. So that's one thing we could do. Nuclear, which is off the table in a lot of cases, has very low to no carbon emission. Well, it still has the, you gotta go get the uranium and get it to the places you need.
but what my question is more about, you talk about as the price of energy increases.
Or as the price of carbon.
Carbon. But as that increases, then it's going to spur the innovation that, or at least spur the growth in these renewable areas because the price. Yeah. So, but it lags behind. Is there something to the idea that yes, there's going to be an increase in innovation, which will bring down costs in those new areas, to do that earlier rather than wait till later?
British Petroleum says that it's limiting its carbon emissions in a way that's making it money. So it's out there innovating, it's capturing gas flares, it's doing various kinds of things and being more efficient in terms of carbon and in its business. And part of its business model is to go and do that. On the other hand, any of you switched to a smaller car in the last few years because you got tired of paying $4 for gasoline? I mean, any of you ever talked to a European and had the European tell you how wasteful the U.S. is because we drive all these little cars? Anybody been to Europe and bought some gasoline lately? What's the price?
It's like 7 or 8 per
Yeah,
liter.
it was like 7 or 8.
Per liter. It's like
The last time I was there, it was about €4 per liter, which means about $12 a gallon. Well, guess what, folks? If it was $12 a gallon, I'll bet you'd switch to smaller cars. So there's both there's a carrot and a stick. There are these people that get out in front, but there's also a price is a very powerful signal to encourage some of this innovation. And in the anybody here from a developing country? I mean, in the United States, do you know how big an average size farm is? It's around 500 or 600 acres. I mean, it's probably, there's 640 acres in a square mile, and the A&M campus is a square mile. So just think of this square here. One farmer's taking care of that on average in the U.S. In a country like India or China, it's one farmer for 1 acre or 2 acres. What's happened here is the relative cost of labor has caused us to innovate in equipment, and we have a tremendously different capital to labor ratio that's really caused things to be different. And what we need, if we're gonna get these carbon emissions down, is somehow to make carbon cost a little bit more so we move on the other side of that sort of energy to carbon ratio that we're now there, and it's gonna take time to do. The big problem we have is that this climate change is sort of marching on, and it's causing things to get warmer and warmer. I'm not gonna tell you this year's drought came from climate change, although it probably contributed to it. But over your lifetimes, we're gonna experience some discomfort from it getting warmer here. And the issue is, the sooner we get on it, the less reversible things we have. Somebody said that there's not gonna be a glacier left in Glacier National Park in 25 years. The glacier in Boulder, Colorado, I went to when I was an undergraduate there, is about 25% of what it was when I was an undergrad. And once that's gone, it's not gonna be easy to get back. Yes?
I was thinking about the EM spectrum that you put up, and Omar brought the point about if there was anything like that in 1985. Those particular wavebands absorb particular greenhouse gases, but there's
Well, they reflect them. That was what was escaping out into the atmosphere. So some bands that weren't interfered with escaped sort of freely. Other ones, more of them, were reflected back to you.
Well,
But you guys are the
if the spectrum's
engineers.
coming in, could have also been reflected out before it gets through the Earth's surface.
Yeah, and you know, the story on this, well, this being caused by the sun is we're seeing more warming close to the surface than we are further away from the surface. So it's really a heat trapping at the surface. It's not sort of the heat coming in from outside. You're right, more could be reflected. I think it has something to do with sort of the refraction angles. But I took my last physics class in 1967, so that's as far as I'll
So
go.
kind of the thing I was getting to is that, well, the whole idea of global warming, I think there's a lot of holes in the whole argument, as a whole. There's